I'm watching you. Variations of this phrase have been said by countless people for centuries, forming a dichotomy between punishment and praise. Parents and teachers threaten to watch their children and students in an attempt to keep them behaving rightly. Bullies threaten to watch their victims to keep them from tattling, yet simultaneously parents watch children perform, looking for opportunities to praise, and sports fans watch teams in order to celebrate. Regardless of this new turn in watching as a tool for celebration, historically the idea of being watched symbolized a violation of privacy and personal freedom, especially when the spectacle were children. Parents want their children protected from the gaze of others while maintaining control of the viewing of their children for themselves. Social media privacy policies demonstrate America's obsession with the idea of privacy despite media's global goals of celebration. Michel Foucault further separates this dichotomy as he perpetuates the idea of watching as a form of punishment in his text, Discipline and Punish. He investigates the public spectacle of torture and execution and its ability to draw crowds, and societies move away from public spectacle, instead replacing it with more private punishment. However, he believes authority systems should adopt the panoptical prison system. His dissection of Jeremy Bentham's panopticon establishes the viewer or spectator as the person of power and the viewee or spectacle as the victim in need of training and discipline, creating his argument that watching is the most effective means of maintaining power and control. In contrast, celebrity studies accentuates or perpetuates a model where invisibility is rewarded. So the idea of being watched is no longer a version of punishment, instead it is a version of praise. So whereas Foucault argues that a viewed body is more docile or disciplined, celebrity studies argues that a viewed body is more powerful. Foucault believes that when one accepts that he or she belongs to the governing authorities and is being watched by those authorities, that person will become docile in the minds of the authority, improved. In contrast, celebrity studies argues that the public viewing creates not a prison, but a place for people to praise and encourage one another. In the introduction to a special PMLA issue on celebrity, Joseph Boone and Nancy Vickers claim that celebrity studies creates a middle ground where celebrities are, quote, brought into being between producers and consumers of culture, who in negotiating this space create and define one another, close quote. So instead of viewing the viewer dictating how the viewee should live, the celebrity allows the viewee to tell the viewer how to live, and thus turns someone into being watched into an economic source of power. Suzanne Collins, the author of The Hunger Games, when interviewed, tells her audience that she wrote these books to be a commentary about war and the horror it leaves behind. She also discusses how she came up with the idea by flipping between war coverage on the CNN and reality television, specifically Big Brother. And she always clearly asserts that these novels are, quote, not fairy tales, and that they are not about adolescence. And so while I argue that they're not fairy tale stories about adolescence, they're still more about than just the powers of war, or the horrors of war. So I believe, as Roberta Seelinger-Troy argues about all adolescent literature, that these are coming-of-age novels about control and power in a much broader sense. In Collins' juxtaposition of these two unlikely ideas, war and celebrity, she inadvertently creates a text full of dichotomies that invites commentary on the cultural war of celebrity and the ways that people use it to gain control and power. In addition, her novels demonstrate how the adult notions of public punishment and celebrity are viewed differently in YA culture, an idea that is furthered by Lauren Conrad's LA Candy and Fame Game trilogies. Conrad's objective initially appears to showcase celebrity as a means of power. However, her characters inadvertently discover that celebrity is more often a prison than anything else. So both authors, in Trite's words, quote, spend time manipulating the adolescent reader, close quote. They are manipulated into a forced reflection on what it means to participate in the gaze. In Discipline and Punish, Foucault investigates the way society, particularly the 17th and 18th centuries, used public discipline and punishment as a means of maintaining control and particular societal expectations. For these societies, a punishment that fits the crime is one that removes all desire for someone to commit that crime. Foucault believes that obstacles of physical pain as well as public humiliation strengthen the power relationship and thus successfully deter crime. For him, punishments should occur frequently and publicly so that citizens understand that crime is forbidden to all by all. It is this common understanding among the members of a society that allows authorities to maintain control with minimal economic output. If people govern themselves, Fewer police and other authorities are needed. Foucault believes the art of punishing then must rest on the whole technology of representation, and he questions why, between the 18th and 19th century, punishment became secretive rather than overt. For Foucault, the purpose of public punishment is to normalize judgment, therefore helping the controlling power to maintain power. If people know they are frequently observed, he believes they will behave properly. The idea of minimal guard with maximum observation leads Foucault to the panopticon prison model, where the prisoners are in constant view of the guards and the guards are never in view of the prisoner. For Foucault, the major effect of the panopticon to induce in the inmate a state of consciousness and permanent visibility that assures the automatic functioning of power. Knowing he's constantly under surveillance, the inmate becomes, quote, a principle of his own subjection. Despite the show Candid Camera broadcasting during the same era when Foucault wrote Discipline and Punish, the author does not consider the idea of television as a panopticon. Alan Funt, the creator of Candid Camera, though, is aware of its potential to create social pressure. Funt understands that people are willing to follow unlikely authorities, and he believes television can be a way to teach, quote, our children to resist unjust or ridiculous authority, close quote. Funt uses hidden camera to create social commentary about the ways that people behave when they think no one is watching. Funt does not simply want to use a hidden camera to spy on people. Instead, he sees it as an ideal tool for advocacy social science. Similarly to Foucault, Funt realizes that if people think someone is observing them, they behave differently than they do if they think they are alone. However, unlike Foucault, Funt realizes this observation can be done outside the confines of a prison. For Funt, the key to behavior modification is in the reveal. It is telling people that their behavior has been recorded, and thus revealing that regardless of their previous belief, they have been viewed. Funt has two key goals, entertainment and observation. In addition to entertaining his audience, Funt wants people to believe that Candid Camera might try to catch them, and therefore they should behave properly. By revealing that there might be hidden cameras around them, the governing power, in other words, the person with the camera, forces the audience to consider the possibility of being a member of the panopticon, with friends and neighbors as the observing guards. However, the idea of entertainment complicates the idea of punishment. One person's punishment becomes another person's entertainment. Suzanne Collins' hatred of war and Alan Funt's uses of reality television find the perfect marriage in Collins' trilogy, The Hunger Games. The capital, the ruling city of Panem, the country in the Hunger Games, subscribes to the punishment methods as described by Foucault. They want to make every punishment public and constant. They want to put a few people on display to keep the rest of the people in line, and they want to show that punishment is so horrible it's not worth the benefit of committing the crime. They do this in local government with whippings and 18th century forms of public punishment, stocks, hangings, and then nationally with the Hunger Games, where each district sends one boy and one girl between the ages of 12 and 18 to be put on national television to fight to the death. At the start of the trilogy, Katniss explains the reasoning of the games to the reader. Taking the kids from our districts, forcing them to kill one another while we watch, this is the Capitol's way of reminding us how totally we are at their mercy, how little a chance we would stand of surviving another rebellion. Whatever words they use, the message is clear. Look how we take your children and sacrifice them, and there is nothing you can do. If you lift a finger, we will destroy every last one of you. And so this is a clip, if I can.
War. Terrible war. Widows, orphans, a motherless child. This was the uprising that rocked our land. 13 districts rebelled against the country that fed them, loved them, protected them. Brother turned on brother until nothing remained. And then came the peace. Hard fought, sorely won. A people rose up from the ashes, and a new era was born. But freedom has a cost. When the traitors were defeated, we swore as a nation we would never know this treason again. And so it was decreed that each year the various districts of Panem would offer up in tribute one young man and woman to fight to the death in a pageant of honor, courage, and sacrifice. The lone victor, bathed in riches would serve as a reminder of our generosity and our forgiveness. This is how we remember our past. This is how we safeguard our future.
So this is the propaganda video that the Capitol shows to remind their members that they are in fact in this panopticon. Katniss understands that the Capitol wants the districts to feel like prisoners rather than citizens. Initially, she submits to the Capitol's philosophy. Although she hunts illegally to feed her family, she does her best to disobey subtly so she can avoid punishment. She has been circumventing the system since her father died, knowing that starving is a bigger punishment than a whipping. However, she is careful to avoid being seen. She knows she must not be a victim of the gaze if she wants to eat. Nevertheless, when her younger sister is chosen to become an official prisoner as a tribute in the games, Katniss volunteers to take her place. It is when she is thrust into the arena, the primary panopticon of Pan Am, the novel begins to invite readers to consider the cultural war at play as well as the physical one. Although they appear to be emulating Foucault's philosophy, the Capitol simultaneously imitates Funt's use of the camera. The Capitol does not only want to create a panopticon where the prisoner knows they are being watched, even if they cannot see the viewers, they also need to create a good show and entertain the audience while demonstrating their power. The Capitol needs the tributes in the game to know that they are continually observed, so they behave in a particular fashion. However, the Capitol wants to show the country how they can manipulate particular situations, thus controlling the players in the game. In the first novel, while Katniss is in the arena, she frequently considers how the game makers might be working to create a good show. She believes particular areas of the arena are designated for particular attacks, that the game makers sit in a control room deciding when to launch those attacks. But mostly, they manipulate us into confronting one another face to face, believing the Capitol finds hand-to-hand battles to be the most entertaining. When Katniss finds herself being prepped for the arena in the first book, she decides to turn the tide and embrace the power of the gaze. Rather than calmly accepting the role of prisoner, she decides to subscribe to a conflicting philosophy, that of existentialism, where the object can have power when it chooses to be for itself rather than being for others. At her mentor's advice, she allows herself to be remade by her stylist, Cinna, and her prep team so that she can look her best while under the watchful gaze of the audience, which contains potential sponsors. The economic status of the district citizen creates the biggest difference between them and the Capitol citizens. The arena in which the tributes compete is clearly a panoptic prison, but unlike traditional prisons, the one person will escape as the victor, and that person will be rewarded with personal wealth and extra food for his or her district, with celebrity, as you saw in the video. Before competing in the game, Katniss's economic power has resulted from invisibly hunting illegally in the woods. Now the people in the Capitol teach her that she can gain more economic power if she is viewed, but she must be viewed correctly. When she is being prepped for the arena, her team continually reminds Katniss of what Max Weber deems charismatic authority. You want the audience to like you. A likable tribute receives more gifts and is more likely to stay alive. However, her success will depend on her maintaining her charisma. Therefore, she carefully guards her facial expressions and behaviors while in the arena, faithfully aware that at any moment her face might be displayed on a screen. A few days into the competition, when she appears trapped, rather than exhibiting the fear she feels, she engages cheerfully with her enemy. Quote, "This takes them back. I know the crowd will love it," quote, and they do. Katniss wants to use her position as spectacle to gain a following and hopefully obtain gifts that will help her get out of the panopticon. In this case, she is given life-sustaining burn cream shortly after the exchange. 4 times in the first novel alone, Katniss believes that she is on every screen in Pan Am, where the citizens are forced to watch the Hunger Games play out. In those moments, it is her awareness of her guards/sponsors that keep her focused. Quote, "I can't let my fear show. Absolutely, positively, I am live on every screen in Pan Am," close quote. It is her knowledge of the way that the Capitol uses the gaze for power that motivates Katniss to use it as a commodity. She wants to gain power for herself as a competitor by controlling how she allows people to view her. Katniss is aware of her placement in a televised panoptic prison allows Collins to write celebrity as a game. In the first novel, Katniss makes the choice she makes to win the game. She has no foresight into what these choices might represent. In contrast, Lauren Conrad in her chick lit trilogies, LA Candy and Fame Game, uses her personal first-hand knowledge of reality television to portray the constant dichotomy within the celebrity panopticon, wanting to be watched in order to establish charismatic authority and wanting the freedom of a private life. Her first novel opens up with the story of Jane Roberts, a girl who seemingly likes her life and is looking for what she terms mild adventure. She's the type of character with whom female characters relate and therefore want to see succeed. When she is chosen by Trevor Lord, a producer from Pop TV, to be on a new reality television show, Conrad portrays this as a success. However, Jane quickly realizes this success does not come without a cost. The difference between Colin's characters and Conrad's characters, which I didn't realize would be so hard to say out loud, is that in Colin's text, the characters believe they fully understand what is at stake. Colin's characters know they are entering a panoptic prison and they will either win or die. That is not the case in Conrad's text. Jane enters into this cultural war completely unaware and thus unprepared to fight. Jane wants to be on the show to be, quote, uncomfortable and push the boundaries of her small, perfectly pleasant life, close quote. Just as Katniss did not understand how the games and her role as tribute victor would go beyond the arena, Jane does not understand that her role as spectacle goes beyond her official time on camera. However, while Jane is unaware of the war at play, not all of Conrad's characters are this naive. Madison Parker, the antithesis of Jane, is well aware of what she needs to do to win the war. Just as Suzanne Collins displays her career tributes as ruthless killers, Conrad's career celebrities are ruthless as well. And although they might not literally kill anyone, they are trying to create a figurative death, the death of a career. Conrad's first novel gives the reader hints at how celebrity works, but it still allows the reader, as well as Jane, to believe that the choices the celebrity makes influence how the audience perceives that person. When the reality television series is about to premiere, Madison wants to be front and center in all of the media coverage, believing that if she is prominently displayed on a poster, that people will perceive her as the star. She believes, similarly to Katniss in the first novel, what Jennifer Wick explains as, quote, celebrity relies on gaze, a collective or public regard that in gazing confers value, close quote. Therefore, if Madison can increase the amount of time people spend viewing her, she will be more valuable. This belief causes her, when she's not getting enough screen time, to secretly give photographs of Jane cheating on her noted abusive alcoholic boyfriend to a gossip magazine in exchange for publicity for Madison. This also allows Madison to position herself as Jane's best friend to comfort her through this scandal. Jane, too, buys into the belief that it's her actions that are what are portrayed and consumed by the audience, not knowing that Madison told this guy to seduce Jane and then hired a photographer to take the pictures. So Jane displays her proper remorseful behavior, and that in turn makes for good ratings. Madison's desire to be a career celebrity motivates her to slur Jane's good girl character in an attempt to displace her on the show, hoping to figuratively kill her. In contrast, Jane's ignorance of the prison aspect of the panopticon causes her to fight, and she hires an agent and a publicist. As these characters seek to empower themselves, what neither of Conrad's characters remember, and what Katniss only mildly understands, is that these shows have producers. Trevor is trying to build ratings, and so that is why Madison is unable to kill Jane. Joseph Roach, in The Doubting Thomas Effect, defines this as, quote, for the celebrity to remain celebrated, the contradiction that defines his or her mystery must remain in continual uncertainty, flickering between highlights and shadows, skepticism and belief, unquote. Madison wants the audience to quit caring about Jane and instead care about her, but Trevor wants the audience to be intrigued by Jane and continue to buy his product. Madison remains the converse of Jane. She wants the power of the gaze, and just as Katniss knows that a kiss equals soup and thus survival, Madison Parker knows which behaviors equal screen time and thus celebrity. The Ellie Candy trilogy ends with Jane walking away from reality television, hoping to become a nobody. However, Conrad's second trilogy, Fame Game, picks up with Madison Parker looking for ways to manipulate her time in the spotlight. Although she knows about Trevor's manipulation, she believes she can control the elements of her life under scrutiny. Initially, it appears to the reader that Madison's knowledge of the workings of celebrity give her the power and control she desires. She receives attention, gifts, notoriety, publicity, all the things necessary to win a career celebrity, which she hopes to parlay into fame. Quote, Madison knew that she needed the paparazzi and gossip magazines just as much as they needed her. It was a symbiotic relationship with escalating benefits. The more famous she got, the more they would want to take her picture. The more pictures they took and published of her, the more famous she would be, close quote. Now that Jane is gone, Madison believes it's her relationship with the press, similar to Katniss's relationship with sponsors, that gives her the advantage to outlast any new face that Trevor puts before her. The similarity between both texts is the belief in the myth that when a person allows herself to be commodified, that at any point she can take back that permission that she gave to others to view her. Jennifer Wick explains why this is a myth, quote, celebrity is not a property or substance, nor even a more supple sense in exchange. It's a distinctive amalgam of production, consumption, and distribution, close quote. Katniss falsely believes that if she can just win the games, she can go home and live away from the gaze, although with her fame and fortune. In the first novel, she believes she must only use her temporary celebrity to defeat the game makers. However, in the second novel, Catching Fire, Katniss learns that once chosen for the games, her entire world becomes a panopticon. Once Katniss goes into production for the games, she becomes a product consumed by the nation, and because of her desire to create a following to earn sponsors, she has also earned a following that forces her to remain a spectacle. Her winning allows the capital to distribute her wealth to her district, but in exchange, she must distribute herself throughout the capital. Going into the games, Katniss understands that people are chosen to be viewed, but she believes that the games are primarily for economic and entertainment purposes. It is not until becoming a victor that she understands the full punishment of the games, the way the Panopticon creates docile bodies for its victors. In the Hunger Games and Conrad's text, reality television works as an effective Panopticon. However, if a television show can serve one's purpose of teaching social lessons, the Panopticon must appear more like a game than a prison, and the producers must remain behind the curtain. Nick Couldry, in reality TV remaking television culture, explains to readers that, quote, media rituals are actions that reproduce myth, that the media are our privileged access points to social reality. Yet they do not work through articulated beliefs in the boundaries and category distinctions around which these media rituals are organized, close quote. In Pan Am, the Hunger Games is the ultimate reality game doc. They continually use ritual to reinforce myths to society. Before the reaping for the games, Katniss and her friend Gale consider exactly what will happen, down to the intonation of Effie Trinket's voice, the Capitol representative. And although they do not have any desire to be chosen for the competition, they believe that winning the games conveys privileges unavailable to those who do not play. Regardless of this ritual, it actually masks two key myths. First, that winning the games equals a life of luxury, and second, that President Snow and the Capitol are infallible. It is not until Catching Fire that Katniss comes to understand these myths as well as others. After she has enjoyed the spoils of her victory for half a year, President Snow visits and tells her the truth about three myths. She is told that although she is outside the boundaries of the district when she hunts in the woods, she is still being watched. She is told that although President Snow is the leader of the country, her behavior is creating a potential for uprising and possibly even revolution. And lastly, she is told that the lives of those she loves, the lives that she thought her victory could protect, can easily be destroyed. From watching the game, Katniss assumed that the boundaries were literal, that once the victor was freed from the arena, he or she was free. The game makers create a perception of social reality that presents Hunger Game victors as privileged members of Pan Am. As a victor, she learns that the real boundaries are figurative, and that as a victor, she will forever be on display as a model citizen prisoner. The second novel shows the impotent side of celebrity culture. It reveals that celebrity itself creates a panoptic prison that a person cannot escape. Slava Zizek uses the reality television show Big Brother, the same as Collins, to define these impotent rituals. Quote, the distinction between real life and acted life is deconstructed in a way that the two collide. Since people act their real life itself, they are literally playing themselves on the screen, close quote. Therefore, these rituals force the participants to live a particular life that pleases the audience. For example, Katniss presented herself as a girl in love, and as a result, she must marry Peeta. She does not have the option of living one life in the public eye and a different life in private. However, just as wars are fought through many battles, celebrity existence has different moments that can give and take power from the celebrity. Once Katniss accepts her dual role as prisoner and celebrity, she is able to use her celebrity for more economic gain. In the third novel, Mockingjay, readers see Colin's agreement with Funt that reality TV can teach children to resist unjust authority. The rebels want to capitalize on Katniss's notoriety because they believe her charismatic authority will lead the districts to follow her. However, initially Katniss wants no part of the rebellion. Katniss feels like a palpablistic text. In the previous novels, she has been an able-bodied competitor, a likable tribute, a girl in love, a doting fiancé, a pregnant bride, and now at the onset of the novel they want her to be a rebel leader, and she is not sure she can be rewritten any longer. She is upset that Peeta has been captured and that she has been lied to by all parties. She learned about the Capitol's myths, and now she knows there are other myths at play as well. Regardless of her exhaustion and her frustration, she does care about the innocent. She does want to see justice, and she does want to see President Snow stripped of his power. So she returns to her stance in the first book and is determined to use the screen to her advantage, not just economically, but socially as well. Now, though, Katniss realizes the screen is not about what is actually authentic, but merely creating verisimilitude and making people believe the presentation. Marc-André Zizek in Visceral Literacy refers to Neil Gabler, who compares reality television to voyeurism because it provides the opportunity to see something that the viewer never thought he would be allowed to see. This becomes Katniss's goal throughout the trilogy. She wants to create actual opportunities on television that no one imagined possible, rather than the illusion that has been mandatory viewing for her whole life. In the first book, it is that someone would not be willing to kill an ally and would instead kill himself, allowing for 2 victors in the games. In the second book, it is that tributes might be willing to break out of the arena and no longer compete. In the third, it is that people who want to fight the Capitol and end the unnecessary killings represented by the games. Because of Colin's emphasis on war, few characters want to enter this panoptic prison. They believe that impending death outweighs the possibility of fame and fortune promised to the winner. In contrast, Conrad's characters see their entrance to the Panopticon through the eyes of celebrity. They see it as an opportunity to get into the best clubs, get free designer clothes, make a decent amount of money while simply living their lives. What they do not understand is that they don't get to live their lives. They soon come to realize that their lives are being scripted and reshaped for a viewing audience. When Scarlett, Jane's real best friend and co-star, explains the show to her boyfriend, she says, quote, "There's my real life, like tonight. Then there's my other life in front of the cameras. And then there's my third life, after Trevor's done editing my scenes and they air on TV," close quote. Scarlett and Jane realize, like Katniss in Catching Fire, that although the audience, it appears as if the girls are simply going about their lives, they know they are herded into contrived settings and steered toward particular topics of conversation. It is Jane's ignorance of Trevor's attempt to create docile bodies while increasing the commodification of her body, along with the others on the show, which propels the plots of 2 of the novels of the L.A. Candy trilogy. Jane naively believes that her promotions at work are related only minorly to her role on the show, and she quickly forgives a coworker who tells her that she was hired simply to give her bad dating advice. Intermittent chapters reveal to the reader Trevor's plans and Madison's schemes, much like the Hunger Game film cutaways to the game room, control room, demonstrating that despite Jane's attempt at controlling her whole life within the panopticon of reality television, she is slowly becoming the docile body that Trevor desires. Regardless, when Jane discovers Trevor's notes and realizes he does script things based on audience ratings, like telling Jane to arrive at the wrong time so she'll be flustered believing she's late, or purposely changing a food order so the character will be upset, she knows she must quit. Jane, like Peeta in the first Hunger Games novel, does not want to be a piece of the game. In conclusion, the difference between a panoptic prison and reality television is the director. Trevor Lord, the Pop TV producer who oversees reality television, operates much like President Snow. He is working to create particular situations that manipulate the players to be docile bodies that he can control for ratings and power. Just like the game makers, he knows what makes a good show, and members of the cast function as tributes, working to manipulate themselves as winners and allowing the rest to be discards. President Snow and the game makers, as well as Trevor Lord, know how to follow Alan Funt's model and produce an entertaining viewing experience. However, the method of intervention separates the panoptic prison from celebrity. In the Hunger Games, the goal of the intervention is to remind the participants that the game makers maintain absolute control. The intervention is meant to remind the tributes that they are, in fact, prisoners. The intervention in Conrad's novels is more subtle, and initially only the readers know the extent to which the characters are prisoners. When Madison finally walks away from the panopticon of pop TV and Starstruck, she proves Foucault's view of the panopticon is true. It creates docile bodies. The constant observation forces people to behave in a particular way because acting for the camera all of the time is impossible. Funt wants to use the camera as a way to motivate behavior. He wanted to reveal the unjust and to motivate people to act in a way that their neighbors were watching they would be proud. Foucault realizes that human nature cannot behave falsely forever. A person can act for the panopticon for a while, but eventually it will break them. Collins and Conrad use these extreme portrayals of reality television to promote the ideology of the empowerment of privacy. Just as Mickenberg and Nell argue that novels about peace are inevitably about war, novels about celebrity are inevitably about privacy. These characters realize a mature life requires intimacy and privacy. They understand Zizek's deconstruction that celebrity requires one to act out one's life, and they see true success of coming of age as achieving the right to privacy and the freedom to decide how to act in that privacy. Collins' novels are about war, therefore it's easy to make the comparison between the physical and cultural war. Conrad's books are about celebrity, therefore the comparison is not as obvious but present nonetheless. Madison is choosing to be a part of celebrity culture. She's a career tribute. She wants all the danger that comes with being in the public eye, in other words, the paparazzi. She is willing to say the things she needs to say and do the things she needs to do because being in the public eye is how one builds celebrity. She demonstrates ways in which modern society, especially through reality television, has become a type of, quote, tragic comic reversal of the Bentham Orwellian notion of the panopticon society. Zizek's got away with words, close quote. In the first novel, Madison seems anxious to arise from the prospect of not being exposed to the other's gaze. However, she, like Cato in the Hunger Games, is a victim of these myths. Both believe they can act in a certain way and they will only reap the benefits. In contrast, Jane and Peeta see through the myths. Jane recognizes the paparazzi as an invasion of privacy and leaves her panoptic prison as soon as she is able. Peeta understands that hiding his true self is the ultimate punishment, and he refuses to become a killer just for a reward. Initially, Conrad's novels attempt to convey the idea of celebrity as good. It just isn't for everyone. However, the prison nature of celebrity is bound to destroy even the most attention-hungry person, leaving Conrad's characters to quote Eminem, "Be careful what you wish for, famed to the point of imprisonment." Celebrity promises power and influence to participants, but it delivers them to the audience. 21st century culture uses media rituals to perpetuate the idea that military might is a form of control and that celebrity is a means of gaining cultural power. Collins and Conrad's novels work to weaken those myths. As Collins reminds her critics, her novels do not romanticize war, nor do they look for a simple solution to national problems. In addition, her novels do not overly glamorize celebrity by creating the illusion that it dissipates all problems. Instead, her novels demonstrate that while war is an unfortunate reality, it should not be entered into lightly, and while celebrity can influence culture, it too comes with a cost. For a person or a culture to have power and control, it must have followers. Collins and Conrad both teach readers that gaining followers always comes at a cost, and that whether one is the viewer or the viewee, a person can have a measure of power. However, in terms of celebrity, it is the same media rituals that tell someone that there's a cost that also perpetuate the idea that the cost is worth the risk.
We have about 15 minutes for questions, comments.
Nicole, I'm sure you've thought a good deal about how the influence of fame and celebrity and the media influences young people. Can you talk with us maybe a little bit about what you considered as maybe some directions that we, on our very sort of day-to-day experiences, can do to sort of mitigate some of that influence?
Yeah, when I started doing all this research, it was one of those things where I was looking at sort of the differences between the way that celebrity and fame are shown in a lot of YA texts. And it started with looking at Harry Potter was coming out, the last film for Harry Potter was coming out at the same time I read The Hunger Games for the first time, and also Disney came out with a film version of a book that's actually much better called Lemonade Mouth, which is these kids who are in detention and they're like goofing off and they end up starting this band that's really unrealistic. And Disney-fied it, and you know, these kids become like famous for their like school garage band. And so it's just this idea that it's like kids are obsessed with the idea of being celebrities, and you've got shows like Hannah Montana, which isn't popular now, but I mean, all of these things where it's like they think that like being a celebrity, one, is really easy to achieve, and two, that it has all of these great rewards and perks and all of that. And so when I started looking at it, I started realizing that a lot of these things have this subtle message that celebrity is not actually all it's cracked up to be. That, you know, even Hannah Montana, that she's got this divide, and I realize that's sort of dated reference now, but it's this idea though, and I think that's the thing, like as we look at these texts, or, you know, talking to our own children or things like that, is helping them sort of deconstruct that while it seems really nice on the surface, it actually is really horrible. And I really like the way Catching Fire has Katniss, because she, like in the first book, she was just doing what she was doing to get out of the arena. Like she, more than once, you realize she hasn't really thought this through at all. And then in the second book, when they're like, no, like you have to be with Peeta, you can't be with Gale, and Haymitch looks at her and he's like, you know, there are worse things in the world than having to be with Peeta. Peeta's actually a pretty good guy. But it's the fact that she doesn't have a choice, and that really upsets her. And just to sort of have that conversation with kids and adolescents and with students as we read some of these texts, that the freedom of celebrity, or the perks, also sort of take away choice. In a more modern reference, I saw a thing about Kim Kardashian this week, that now she wants to divorce Kanye West, but her parents won't let her because her career can't handle another divorce. And whether or not that's true is really irrelevant. It's the fact that, you know, there's like, if you want to be celebrity status, like you married Kanye West, you're stuck. Like that's it. And so I think, you know, helping adolescent readers sort of see the way that these people are doing it. And Lauren Conrad is really fascinating to me, because she was recruited as a teenager to be on an MTV reality show, Laguna Beach, and then that translated into the reality TV version of 90210 The Hills, and now she designs clothes, but she has really, really, really pulled back. Like, and I think that she wrote these books as a true sort of like, I thought reality TV would be really fun, and now I realized like everything I do, like she realized like she had no idea what she wanted to do. And that's Madison's thing in the novels, is like she realizes she doesn't even know who she is anymore, because she's been so busy being what she thinks will make her famous. And so it's that idea that, you know, celebrity is very temporal and it's very artificial.
But I agree with you, it requires engaging in the conversation with young folks.
Yeah.
To recognize what may not initially be as apparent.
Yeah, and I mean, I do think it comes, and, you know, and it's, you know, when you read stuff about kids and literacy and things like that, it's like, you know, letting them read what they want to read. And the Lauren Conrad books are not your best written texts, you know, but they are very fast reads, and, you know, teenagers, especially middle schoolers, like them. And, you know, so it's like you can have this conversation about, you know, what an awful person Madison is, until this all dawns on her, and then all of a sudden she sort of changes, because she's like, oh, maybe this isn't what I want. Maybe I want to figure out who I am. And it affords an opportunity for conversation if people are willing to have it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I want to talk a little bit more about, or have you talk a little bit more about Foucault in the Hunger Games, because it seems that a significant way that these novels, at least the first one, depart from kind of a Foucauldian understanding of power, in which, you know, power is driven underground and power comes through seducing subjects into what is considered normal, right? And that's sort of almost like the peer pressure of power, which seems really pertinent for adolescent literature. But the Hunger Games is about really explicitly oppressive state power, right? That if you don't participate, it's not that Katniss has to be seduced into participating, she's forced into participating. I mean, I agree, once she's in the game itself, she is choosing how to manipulate celebrity and manipulate the panoptic qualities. But this isn't, it seems like the Lauren Conrad novels are more Foucauldian in that she's kind of choosing that.
Yeah, I think the way I see it with Katniss is that the switch you see when she first gets in, all she wants to do is hide in the trees. Like she's still operating under that premise of, I don't want to be seen, I don't want to be noticed, I want to stay under the radar. And she, even though Haymitch has told her, you know, make them like you want sponsors, all of that kind of stuff, initially she doesn't want allies, she doesn't want to work with people, she just wants to like hide in a tree and sort of stay alive, much the way Foxface does. So Foxface comes in and sneaks, you know, food from the couriers and does everything, but her goal is to just like outlive the rest of them, like let them kill each other and she's gonna do it. And you get Peeta, who says to Katniss on the roof that first night, I just don't want to be a piece of this. And Katniss doesn't understand what he means at that point at all. And then when she's in the arena and she realizes that Rue has helped her, and then when she chooses to help, and so I feel like she is sort of the Capitol, like she talks about the Capitol wanting to manipulate them into face-to-face battles. I feel that the Capitol has also manipulated her into encounters with other tributes. They will not let her be on the edge of the arena by herself. They force her into being near other tributes, the fact that the careers sort of hang out at the bottom of that tree. And so that manipulates her into making a choice. Like, since I can't hang out by myself, I'm going to either have to engage in this cheerfully, or I'm going to have to just sort of let them kill me. And so I think it's that, in the film, I think actually does a better job than the book of showing the way that manipulation is happening, because in the novel it's all her head, where the film shows you these cutaways to the game makers, like she's far away from the other tributes, and they force her in. So I feel like in some way there's, like in Conrad's books, there's the conscious choice, but in the Hunger Games, I feel like Katniss has that choice too, because she could ignore Rue, she could climb higher in the trees, but she doesn't. She chooses to manipulate it. Does that fit? You're like, I don't know.
I guess, I mean, maybe because I work, you know, in the 18th century where, you know, Foucault is talking about. I mean, the reason that Foucault talks about that period is in the Enlightenment value was away from, you know, tyranny and an oppressive state system. So Foucault was interested in then like, well, then how does power work now? So it's about, you know, power is actually in discourse and you know, being seduced into these positions. So that, for example, you know, women would choose to become domestic because they got a certain power within that realm. So I guess I'm not seeing that analogy played out, but it might be that I'm thinking of, you know, working on a different part of Foucault than you are, so it's okay.
Yeah, well, but I think it's because I know what you mean in the sense that like women choosing to have like power over their house, and I think, yeah, I guess I just saw, I mean, and some of it I think probably is a little bit of different parts of Foucault, but some of it too I think just has to do with her, and in that first book she doesn't realize what she's choosing, like she's just, like initially she sort of is just going along with it, and then I feel like as the series progresses, she starts making more conscious choices, especially by Mockingjay, where she's just like, all right, I want to just hide in the vent and rub my soft silk and not do it, but the fact that she's like no, I'm going to go do this hard thing and I'm going to be on camera and I'm going to do it my way.
Yes, I think actually Hunger Games is more optimistic about agency than Foucault is, maybe.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's something to think about too, like how does it kind of critique that and go beyond that?
I guess I see that's where Funt comes in, you know, where he's taking the idea of Foucault and sort of saying, we can put it on this broader scale and then have more power.
I see Hunger Games as a long process of her choosing to use that power. Maybe she doesn't realize it at the beginning, like you said in the first book, but it's like a growing process of learning to understand the power of discourse and what she can do.
Yeah.
But she's good at it from the beginning by being a hunter and, finding a way.
Yeah. She has some distinct advantages that she,
Can I just ask something, just from reading these, there is a lot of focus on fashion and food. And so on the one hand, it has these messages, and on the other hand, there's constant message about the material being used and the delicacies that everybody's eating. And I'm just wondering about the sense of the author maybe having it both ways. I mean, on the one hand, there is this kind of, anti-celebrity kind of good message about agency. And on the other hand, I mean, if you want to, you can just dwell on these things on the really superficial qualities. I mean, do you think is it intentional? Is it the nature of the audience she's writing for, to give them a little bit of sweetness along with maybe the more difficult message? How do you see that when you?
well, I feel like it's trying to show the seductive side of celebrity. Like, if Katniss gives in to what the Capitol wants and plays the game their way, she can have all, she can eat her lamb and plum stew all she wants to her heart's content. And because really when you read the books, she's doing fine on her own, and then she finds out like they can team up, and she goes and finds Peeta, and he's like on death's doorstep, and she sacrifices everything to save him because he's the boy with the bread. And so at that point you see this choice, this human moment where it's like, I can have the delicacies and the fame and the fortune, and this guy's gonna die anyway. Like, all I have to do is just walk away and he's dead. Like, it won't take much to let him die. But she can't do it. Like, she has this piece in her that says, I can't let Peeta die. I was on death's doorstep and Peeta saved me, and now Peeta's on death's doorstep and I have to save him. And so it's showing this agency, this choice, that it's like, I could very easily have all of these luxuries, but instead I'm going to choose to remain human, and I'm going to care more about a person than I am about lamb stew. And I think that's what all of these authors who are talking about celebrity are doing, because I think they want readers to realize that, like, it would be easy in some ways to choose all of this luxury, and it will require sacrifice to give it up, in addition to the fact that you're giving up hot showers and your favorite delicacies and all of that kind of stuff. But I've also heard people talk about the Hunger Games, because it is a dystopia. Thanks for coming, Michelle. That we're supposed to see ourselves as the Capitol. Americans, it's like, we want to identify with Katniss, but really we're the ones who are oppressing everybody else. And so there is that element of, like, the audience factor too, where it's just like, you know what, we've got life pretty good, and we need to realize who we are oppressing in order to maintain this life of luxury that we have. And that's a whole nother direction.
Do you think that message is clear in the book to the average reader, to the kids?
Average, maybe not. I
I mean, you really have to pull it out, the teachers have to.
I was gonna say, I think when teachers that I've talked to who use it in classrooms, I think then they're able to do that. And there's enough stuff going on that kids will like it and read it and engage with teachers, and they'll have some of those conversations. And but I think your average middle schooler that just picks it up, I think they just look at it as a good story. And it's one of those things too where ideally it's a book that draws people back into it, so maybe they read it when they're in 6th, 7th grade and don't necessarily get it, and then read it as an adult and can see some of the stuff that's going on. That's the beauty of studying YA Lit, is you see the multiple levels, and hopefully it's stuff that comes out in a reread. But no, do I think the average 12-year-old who picks it up catches it the first time? No.